I don't care what your tickets say. Children like you don't belong in first class. Those words rang through Gate B-47 at Atlanta International Airport as 10-year-old twins Marcus and Zoe Williams froze. Gate agent Janet Rodriguez was yelling at two kids who had done nothing wrong except hold valid first-class tickets. Security Chief Dave Patterson stood nearby, arms crossed, radiating authority that made even adults nervous. Marcus, wearing his junior aviator pin, tried to stay calm. Zoe clutched her stuffed elephant Peanut so tightly her knuckles turned white. More than 200 passengers had stopped to watch, some horrified, others filming, and a few quietly agreeing. "Where did you get these?" Janet demanded, waving their boarding passes like fake bills. The twins had seats 2A and 2B, tickets their father had bought for their first trip, alone to Miami to celebrate their grandmother's 80th birthday. But Janet had already decided they didn't belong there. Bitterness from a failed marriage and financial stress had hardened her heart. In her eyes, children like Marcus and Zoe didn't fit her. Picture of first-class passengers. She couldn't have known that. Humiliating those two kids would shut down the busiest airport in America. Marcus and Zoe weren't ordinary twins. They could read each other with a glance. Marcus, quiet and protective, dreamed of becoming a pilot. Zoe was bright, curious, and endlessly talkative. After losing their mother in a car crash 6 months earlier, their father, Dr. Michael Williams, had splurged on this first-class trip so they'd feel cared for and safe. But at Gate B-47, none of that mattered. Beside Janet stood Dave Patterson, 52, a former cop who treated every traveler like a potential threat. His file was full of complaints, but management kept him because he kept order. Next to him was Monica Sterling, a flight attendant obsessed with maintaining standards, whispering that first class should be kept exclusive. It was Friday evening, storm delays everywhere, tempers short. Gate B-47 was crowded with 200 passengers. The first-class cabin had empty seats, but these employees would rather leave them unfilled than let two black children sit there. The twins approached with innocent confidence. "Hi, ma'am," Marcus said politely, handing the tickets. "Our dad bought these," Zoe smiled. "It's our first time flying alone." "We're twins," Janet's expression hardened. "I'll have to verify these aren't stolen," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus and Zoe froze. "Ma'am, they're real," Marcus said. "Our dad—" "Quiet," Janet snapped. "Security!" Dave stepped forward. "No phone calls," he barked. "We'll sort this out," passengers whispered. A few filmed. Most said nothing. The twins were led to a corner, humiliated and terrified. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. "Why are they being so mean?" she whispered. Marcus wrapped an arm around her. "Daddy will fix this." As they sat in the holding area, 3 passengers watched in turmoil. Sarah Chen, a corporate executive, looked away, uneasy but silent. Robert Thompson, a middle school teacher, recognized bullying but hesitated. Maria Gonzalez, a mother of 3, pulled out her phone and hit record. "These are just babies," she muttered. Meanwhile, 10 miles away, high in the control tower, Dr. Michael Williams was managing air traffic, completely unaware his twins were being harassed below. Dr. Williams had rebuilt his life after tragedy. A cardiologist turned regional air traffic chief, he had lost his wife, Angela, 6 months earlier when a drunk driver ran a red light. Since then, Marcus and Zoe were his world. The Miami trip was supposed to heal them a little. He'd saved overtime money to buy first-class tickets so they'd be safe and comfortable. Now, the very system he helped run was turning against his kids. At the gate, Janet's supervisor, Tom Bradley, arrived. Middle-aged, cautious, and blindly loyal to his staff, he glanced at the twins and frowned. "We can't be too careful," he said loudly. "Unaccompanied minors can be tricky," Dave added. "Maybe we should call child services." Zoe grabbed Marcus's hand, trembling. "They can't take us away from Daddy, can they?" "Please," Marcus said, trying not to cry. "We can call him. He'll explain," but Janet smirked. "Your dad can't fix this, sweetie. This is a federal matter," Zoe whispered. "Should we tell them what Daddy does?" Marcus shook his head. "They won't believe us. Remember at school?" Months earlier, Marcus had told his classmates, My dad controls airplanes. They laughed, calling him a liar. He'd promised himself he'd never say it again. Outside, lightning flashed. Flights were delayed everywhere. Marcus watched through the window. Planes sat motionless. That's weird, he murmured. Daddy said he was working today. Then came the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, all departures are on hold pending clearance from the control tower. Marcus's eyes widened. That's Daddy. Minutes later, Tom sighed. Fine, one call. Let's verify this and move on. Marcus handed the phone to Zoe. You call. Daddy always smiles when he hears your voice. Her small fingers trembled as she dialed. Hey, Princess, Dr. Williams answered warmly. Aren't you supposed to be on the plane? Her voice broke. Daddy, they won't let us on. They say our tickets are fake. They want to call child services. We're scared. His tone shifted instantly. Put the supervisor on. Tom took the phone, pretending calm. This is Tom Bradley, gate supervisor for Flight 447. This is Dr. Michael Williams, came the cool reply. You're detaining my children. Sir, we're just verifying who bought the tickets. Tom checked. A Dr. Michael Williams. That's me, Williams said. What authority do you have to detain them? Tom hesitated. Protocol, sir. Dr. Williams's voice grew icy. Do you even understand how this airport operates, Mr. Bradley? Tom blinked. Sir, I am the chief air traffic controller for the entire southeast region, Williams said. Every aircraft waiting on that tarmac, I control them. Tom's color drained. Janet went pale. Marcus squeezed Zoe's hand and whispered, Told you they wouldn't believe us. You have 30 seconds to put my twins on that plane, Dr. Williams said calmly. Sir, let's discuss 25 seconds. Dr. Williams, 20. Sir, please. 10, 5. Then his voice boomed across every radio in the tower. This is Control Tower. Implement ground stop protocol immediately. All aircraft movement suspended until further notice. Instantly, every plane at Atlanta International halted. Fuel trucks stopped, baggage carts froze, engines idled. The PA system crackled. Attention, all flights are temporarily suspended due to an air traffic control directive. Passengers across terminals panicked, demanding answers. But at gate B47, 2 children sat wide-eyed. Daddy really did it, Zoe whispered. Marcus nodded proudly. Told you Daddy was important. Janet backed away, face white. Phones filmed her horror. Tom stared at the phone like it might explode. Dave muttered into his radio, lost. Minutes later, a team of managers arrived, led by Airport Director Sandra Hayes, a composed woman in her 50s, her eyes blazing. What happened here? She demanded. Janet tried to explain. We followed procedure for unaccompanied minors. Sandra cut her off. You've just cost us millions over 2 10-year-olds. You understand what you've done? Then from the crowd, a ripple. Dr. Williams himself was walking toward them, his badge still around his neck. Daddy! The twins cried, running to him. He dropped to his knees, catching them in his arms. Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? They said our tickets were fake, Zoe sniffed. They wouldn't let us call you, Marcus added. He looked up at the staff with cold fury. You humiliated my children over your assumptions. Sandra stepped forward, voice low. Dr. Williams, please let us fix this. He didn't answer. The airport was silent except for the rain against the windows. Dr. Williams rose slowly, still holding Marcus and Zoe close. Every eye at gate B47 was on him. The man who could ground the skies was now standing in front of the people who had humiliated his children. Sandra Hayes, the airport director, stepped between him and the trembling staff. Dr. Williams, I'm deeply sorry. Please, let's talk, he spoke evenly. There's nothing to discuss until my children are safely on that plane. Tom Bradley nodded quickly. Of course, sir. Right away. He motioned for the gate door to be reopened, but the damage was already done. The terminal was buzzing with passengers whispering, filming, and calling friends. News alerts were beginning to ping on phones. Atlanta airport halted. Air traffic chief grounds flights after twins denied boarding. Sandra turned to Janet Rodriguez. What were you thinking? Janet's voice shook. They didn't look like first-class passengers. I was following protocol. Protocol doesn't include profiling children, Sandra said coldly. You're finished here. Security approached. Janet's shoulders slumped as her badge and ID were removed. 15 years of service ended in seconds. Dave Patterson tried to defend himself. I was ensuring security. 17 complaints in 3 years, Sandra interrupted. Your version of security is intimidation. You're suspended pending investigation. Tom opened his mouth, but she cut him off. And you? Your failure to de-escalate nearly shut this airport down. You're demoted effective immediately. Monica Sterling, who had been lurking near the jet bridge, froze when Sandra called her name. You whispered about standards. You'll be flying economy routes until further notice and attending every sensitivity class we offer. Passengers murmured approvingly. For the first time, the crowd seemed united, not in outrage, but in relief that justice was happening. Sandra then faced Dr. Williams. Your children should never have experienced this. I promise you it will never happen again. Dr. Williams's expression softened slightly. Promises mean nothing without action. You'll have both, she said firmly. Immediate retraining for every employee and lifetime first-class access for your family as an apology. But please, lift the ground stop. We have thousands of stranded travelers. Dr. Williams looked down at Marcus and Zoe. Are you two ready to fly? Marcus nodded. Can we go now, Daddy? He turned back to Sandra. Once my children are seated safely, I'll clear the airspace. Minutes later, the twins boarded under the escort of the captain himself. The crowd at B-47 clapped as they walked down the jet bridge, two small figures who had brought an airport to its knees. When Sandra received confirmation that the twins were seated in 2A and 2B, she relayed the message. Dr. Williams picked up his radio. Tower control to all units, ground stop lifted. Resume standard departures. Engines roared back to life across the runways. Relief swept through the terminals. He exhaled, the fury finally ebbing. Thank you, Sandra, he said quietly. She nodded. And thank you for reminding us what accountability looks like. With the crisis contained, Dr. Williams returned to the tower long enough to transfer command, then headed straight back to the terminal. The story had already gone viral. Reporters waited outside the security doors, and cameras flashed as he walked with Sandra toward a cluster of microphones. He didn't seek the spotlight, but he knew this was bigger than one family. My children were treated as suspects because of their skin color, he said evenly. They were polite, ticketed passengers traveling to their grandmother's birthday. That should have been the only fact that mattered. He gestured toward the now quiet gate. Everyone here today saw how easy it is to let bias masquerade as procedure. We all have a responsibility to stop it when it happens. Applause broke out. Some cried openly. Even weary travelers who'd missed flights stood and clapped. Marcus and Zoe peeked from the aircraft doorway, watching their father with wide eyes. For the first time since the ordeal began, they felt proud instead of scared. Inside the plane, the captain knelt beside them. You two okay? Zoe nodded. Daddy fixed it, the captain smiled. He sure did. You've got quite a dad. As the flight took off through clearing skies, Marcus stared out the window at the glittering runways below. He really stopped all those planes for us, he whispered. Zoe hugged Peanut and smiled. Because he loves us more than all the planes in the world. 3 hours later, they landed in Miami. Their grandmother stood at the arrival gate, arms open, tears in her eyes. My babies! She cried, gathering them both in a hug. They poured out the whole story, the shouting gate agent, the scary guard, the kind strangers who spoke up, and how Daddy's phone call had silenced an entire airport. Grandma Williams listened, her expression moving from anger to pride. You know, she said softly, when your grandfather and I were young, we weren't allowed in certain restaurants. People said we didn't belong, but we knew our worth. She pulled an old photo album from her bag, pages filled with black and white images of marches and sit-ins. Change takes courage. What your daddy did today, what you did by staying calm, that's how the world moves forward. Zoe leaned against her shoulder. Will people remember? Oh, yes, Grandma said. They'll remember that two brave children reminded grown-ups what fairness means. That night, in her warm Miami home, the twins finally slept peacefully. They'd faced hate, but they'd seen love win. Somewhere far above, planes moved smoothly through the night sky again, guided by the same man who had stopped them all to defend what mattered most. By morning, the story of what happened at Gate B47 had spread across the country. News channels replayed shaky phone videos showing Marcus and Zoe standing quietly while adults argued over their right to board. The headline read, "Air Traffic Chief grounds airport after twins denied first class for looking out of place." Social media exploded. Millions of comments poured in, some furious, many inspired. Hashtags like Justice for the Twins and Fly Fair trended for days. The footage of Dr. Williams calmly embracing his children as chaos unfolded behind them became a symbol of both outrage and hope. Within 48 hours, the airline issued a nationwide apology. Executives met with Dr. Williams privately, offering restitution and launching mandatory bias awareness training across all branches. "No one should experience what your family did," the CEO said. "We'll change our culture from the top down." Dr. Williams accepted the apology but insisted on transparency. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about making sure no other child feels what my twins felt." He requested that the company sponsor scholarships for underrepresented students in aviation and establish a mentorship program, encouraging kids of color to become pilots and engineers. The board agreed unanimously. Back in Atlanta, the terminal looked normal again, planes taking off, families rushing to gates. But the memory of that day lingered. Many passengers who had witnessed the confrontation couldn't shake the guilt of their silence. Some wrote letters to the Williams family, admitting they wished they'd spoken up sooner. Maria Gonzalez's video became central to the investigation. It showed the moment she stood up to Janet, the fear on the twins' faces and the crowd's shifting conscience. Maria later appeared on national television. "I didn't plan to be brave," she said. "I just couldn't watch injustice happen to children." Sarah Chen was interviewed too. "It reminded me of my own childhood," she admitted. "We teach our kids about fairness, but adults forget to practice it." Robert Thompson, the teacher, turned his guilt into purpose. He wrote a classroom lesson titled "The Day Silence Broke," teaching students that courage sometimes starts with one voice saying, "This is wrong." For weeks afterward, Marcus and Zoe received hundreds of letters from strangers, pilots, teachers, parents, other twins, telling them how proud they were. One pilot even sent a junior aviator badge engraved with their initials. Life slowly returned to normal. Dr. Williams resumed his duties in the control tower. Every time he spoke into the radio, his colleagues remembered that calm but unyielding tone that had once halted an entire airport. They respected him even more, not for his authority, but for his humanity. One quiet Sunday, he took Marcus and Zoe to a local airfield. They watched small planes lift off into the bright blue sky. Marcus, eyes wide, said, "One day I'll fly one of those." Zoe grinned. "And I'll sit next to you, front row, first class." Dr. Williams laughed softly. "You both already know what first class really means. It's not about seats or tickets, it's about how we treat people." The twins nodded solemnly. They understood now in a way most adults never would. Months later, when they visited Miami again, Grandma Williams surprised them with a framed front-page newspaper article about the incident. Beneath it, she'd written in neat cursive, "Courage runs in this family." She pointed to the headline. "Your daddy used his power for good, babies. That's what you do when life gives you a platform. You use it to lift others." Marcus traced the photo of his father holding them in that crowded terminal. "I was scared," he said quietly. "Bravery isn't about not being scared," Grandma replied. "It's about doing the right thing while you are." That evening, the family gathered on the porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. The twins listened to Grandma tell stories about the marches she and Grandpa had joined decades earlier, how they'd faced shouting crowds and closed doors, and how each act of resistance, no matter how small, made the next one easier. "People think progress happens in big speeches," she said. "But sometimes it happens in an airport when two little ones remind the world that respect isn't a privilege, it's a right." Marcus smiled faintly. Maybe one day we'll tell this story to our kids, Zoe nodded. And we'll tell them not to let anyone make them feel they don't belong. Dr. Williams put his arms around both of them. That's all I could ever hope for. The next morning, as they prepared to fly home, the airline staff treated them with extra kindness. The captain greeted them by name. The crew had left a handwritten note on their seats. Welcome aboard, Marcus and Zoe. Thank you for teaching us something important. As the plane climbed above the clouds, Marcus looked out the window. Do you think Daddy's watching us from the tower? Zoe giggled. He probably paused the whole sky again just to wave. Dr. Williams smiled. Not this time, sweetheart. The world's flying smoothly today. They sat quietly for a moment, watching sunlight streak across the wings. Below them lay a world still learning, still changing, one act of courage at a time. When the wheels touched down in Atlanta, applause broke out. The crew announced that the flight was dedicated to every traveler who believes kindness should always come first. Outside the terminal, reporters waited again, but Dr. Williams declined interviews. He simply said, "My children have been through enough. Let their example speak." And it did. Schools discussed the event in civics classes. Airlines updated their training manuals. The FAA commended Dr. Williams for professionalism under pressure. Across the country, families talked about empathy, respect, and what it means to belong. For Marcus and Zoe, life was simpler now. School, homework, laughter. But the memory stayed with them like a quiet promise. Whenever they saw planes passing overhead, they thought not of fear or humiliation, but of the moment love had stopped the sky. Because sometimes the strongest protest isn't loud, it's a father's calm voice saying, "That's enough." And sometimes, the greatest power in the world is the courage of two. Children holding hands and refusing to let go. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel if you are against racism and want justice for the people who face hate from people.